Welcome to the Mobile Workforce Podcast, where we sit down and have real conversations with business leaders that have been where you are. During these interviews, we'll dive into what it takes to improve systems and champion processes that maximize performance. Each week, our trailblazing guests share their experiences and understanding of the workforce to help inspire change, challenge our thinking, and share what it takes to successfully travel the road to profitability. Now here's our host, co-founder and chief evangelist of About Time and WorkMax, Mike Merrill.
Hello and welcome again to the Mobile Workforce Podcast. I am your host, Mike Merrill, and today we are sitting down with our guest, Stuart Burgess. Stuart is the chairman and co-founder of Burgess Mining Consultants, and he's an expert on spearheading, building lean and productive teams, and also developing strategic partnerships that have propelled growth from startup to over $6 million in peak revenue. So today, Stuart and I are going to talk about market intelligence in general, and also why it's important in today's market, and how we can also modernize that market intelligence data that we now have access to through modern technology. So thanks again for joining us today, Stuart. Looking forward to this conversation.
Thanks, Mike. I'm looking forward to it as well.
Awesome. So to start off, let's just talk about what exactly market intelligence is.
Well, market intelligence can take a lot of different forms for different businesses, but in a nutshell, it enables businesses to make well-informed decisions, optimize their marketing and sales efforts, and ultimately, it's what helps drive growth and success.
Okay, so how complex can market intelligence reading, understanding it get?
Can vary from simple to very complex. I mean, it depends on the industry and the ambitions of the business. I mean, for giant companies, it's a leviathan of a task. For smaller companies, it may be something that the CEO is doing themselves, or they have a small team that's putting it together. So, I mean, generally, the better the quality and the more market intelligence you have, the better decisions you can make.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So in an organization or maybe consultants, who would be the ones that would be looking at and analyzing this data to make those decisions?
It's the people who are making decisions. So anybody who's looking at strategy, they're looking at sales, they're looking at marketing efforts, even people who are just managing a sales team, having market intelligence can really help them make better decisions, understand what's going on around them. And so it's really key. It's something that I think a lot of companies do it intentionally. A lot of companies just do it without realizing they're doing it, but it's really an important component of business.
All right. So Stuart, what types of technology tools are companies using today? Obviously, we're well past the fax machine technology. We have AI and BI and integrations and APIs and all the I's. What kind of tools are you seeing companies utilize to get this data?
Yeah, so on the more fax machine side of it, a lot of people are still just using an Excel spreadsheet, and they're plugging in information about their market, their customers, their competitors, and different overall economic factors. Like for the construction industry, they may subscribe to Dodge Construction Networks and get information on projects and where they're happening and plug it in there. But yeah, on the more sophisticated side, there's a lot of companies that they're starting to use things like AI or tools like the mineralocity aggregates platform that we've built that takes a lot of data and aggregates it together. It's aggregation of aggregate data, which is really a mouthful, but yeah, it kind of takes the big picture down so that there's all the data's there, the insights are there, and then it's up to them to kind of analyze how it impacts their business specifically and then take action on it. But yeah, there's so many amazing tools out there now for collecting data and doing a lot of that analysis just right off the top.
Yeah, I agree with that. We see a big spectrum, very broad from, like you say, people that are really, really almost in the Stone Ages as far as technology adoption, and then other companies that are very, very complex and technical, maybe even have programmers and engineers on staff to build these types of tools and to manage them and to keep data in front of them. But if I'm a contractor that just doesn't really utilize market intelligent research at all, really like zero, like they say, well, I've heard all about it, but I really don't know what it is, what I'm missing out on. What are the first steps that you would tell a company like that to take?
Yeah, so the first thing to do is just really start collecting data on everything. Anything that has to do with your market, what's going on around you, just start collecting that information. That's really the first step, and subscribe to sources that supply that information. And then the next big thing is to just start paying attention to what's going on in the industry. If they're in the construction industry, paying attention to projects, things that are going on, paying attention to the competitors and what's going on, and trying to make some estimations as to market share and things like that are useful. And then just start asking questions when you network with colleagues in the industry. There's a lot of information that can be gained by just talking to others in the industry, maybe your competitors or just friends that operate in different markets. That's really market intelligence at its core and kind of the basics, and then it can get more sophisticated from there. But if you're not doing anything, those are a good first step.
Okay, and I've got to imagine, the construction industry as a broader term is probably pretty similar to oil and gas, energy, exploration, mining. They're doing similar things, remote projects. You got a mobile workforce that are out performing tasks of some sort or another. So what types of indicators would a company like that that's very heavy on labor be looking for initially as a phase one to leveraging market intelligence data?
Yeah, so for the construction industry, some of the big ones are construction spending, what's going on in residential, non-residential infrastructure projects, to kind of get a health on the market. And a lot of those things are published nationwide, regionally, and they're fairly easily to access without spending a lot of money. Building permits is another great one, tracking building permits, where they're happening. Construction backlog, having a measure for work that's under contract but hasn't been completed yet. And then, of course, and this one applies across all those sectors, labor market conditions, employment levels, wage growth, things like that. That's market intelligence that you wouldn't traditionally think of in the sense of talking about construction spending, but also really key to the market and understanding what's going on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One of the things that I'm curious about, you're heavier into the mining side and maybe oil and gas. Are you seeing and witnessing a labor or a workforce shortage like the other industries are in construction?
Yeah, we are on the ground with operators and things like that. We're definitely starting to see it. There's companies like Turner Mining that does a lot of construction staffing, and they've actually started their own staffing arm to keep projects fed. So that's a pretty good indicator of what's going on. But we're seeing a lot in the specialized like consultants, and people are doing a lot of heavy analytical roles and things like mining engineers. There's a shortage; they're hard to get. I heard from some colleagues in Australia that in all of last year, only 4 mining engineers graduated.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is, they're each going to have to run like 20 mines in 10 years if it keeps going like that. So there's going to be a shift though. Ultimately, they're going to have to start importing specialists. And I think it's really across the whole thing. I mean, diesel mechanics, from the ground up, there's definitely a shortage. And I think it's going to continue to grow until there's a shift in education back towards doing some of these jobs that haven't been quite as sexy over the years, but are really needed.
Yeah, 4 graduates. I mean, that's almost mind blowing.
Yeah, scary.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of guests on the podcast, and we're familiar with certain groups that are doing training and trying to get the trades more into high schools and college campuses to a greater degree. I know the AGC and some of the unions around are putting on, job fairs and doing all sorts of things to try and spike new interest in these youth of today. Do you know of any programs like that in your industry that you specialize more in?
Yeah, so there's a lot of the associations, the Utah Mining Association, Nevada Mining Association, Arizona Mining Association, the state mining associations do a really good job with education. they get into schools, they do, they'll have a day where the high school will go out and visit a mine and learn about it, or they'll bring in experts to talk. But yeah, the mining companies themselves, some of the larger ones, do a pretty good job with outreach efforts and getting out to high schools and getting involved in scholarships and things. But largely, it's really the mining associations who are really trying to drive that.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I'm glad there are things going on. I know it's a problem, not in all demographics. I think this new modern technology boom has also created a gap in the trades and blue collar workforce. And I don't think a lot of these youth understand what a fulfilling, rewarding, and financially beneficial career they can find in some of these trades. And it's great to hear that there are more groups raising awareness.
Yeah, exactly. It's I can't blame a lot of these guys that got into programming and stuff. I mean, they made great careers. They made a lot of money doing something that their parents or grandparents didn't have those opportunities, but it's definitely created a gap.
Yeah. So along those lines you're talking about programming and technology, the technical side of a mine or a project like that. Are you seeing a big shift where the industry is leaning more heavily into technology at a faster clip, or do you think adoption is picking up some steam over maybe the previous decades?
Absolutely. It's picking up a lot of steam. I think a lot of it's driven by ESG initiatives. And there's just a situation in mining where for decades, the mining industry tried to keep quiet. They tried to stay under the radar. They didn't want to stick their head up and get in trouble. And so largely anti-mining, industry groups have really had the whole voice. And now that's starting to change, where the mining industry is starting to step up and realize if they're not being involved in the conversation, they have no control over it. And part of that is being able to say, hey, we're making innovations. We have great safety records. We're doing a lot for employee health and safety. We're doing a lot of environmental monitoring and things like that. And a lot of those solutions are really technology based. So that's really kind of the big push.
Yeah. And I know even, everybody with the big electric vehicle push, I mean, those vehicles require materials that are mined in order to operate. And so, no matter which side of the fence you want to stand on, or a foot on both sides, we got to keep these industries moving forward in order to adopt these new technologies and innovations that hopefully in the long run will be more efficient than what we're doing today. But there's I think a lack of education on, like you said, the voice hasn't been nearly as loud as it probably needs to be for the value of the great work that you all are providing to not just our community here, but and more globally, right?
Right. Yeah. The whole green revolution and all these new technologies, electrification, require a lot of mining, and in some commodities, it's magnitude of 5 to 10 times what we're producing now needs to happen, and we want to be able to do that in the safest, cleanest way that we can that benefits the local communities, and that really requires everybody working together.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, and not to be political in any form or fashion, but I think all of us, it's just like the pandemic and some of those things that we've all gone through together. There are some positive unintended consequences that have come from those tragic situations, and that is, the adoption of technology and the moving forward of mobility, and being able to work remotely and not have to waste so much time and energy and resource traveling to and fro when a meeting could be done over Zoom. It doesn't have to be in person in every single case. And so I think just like that, there are other benefits that, maybe some of these initiatives can help us with. But like to your point, operating safely, cleanly, efficiently, more green, those are all positive things. But we also need to be careful that we're not overcorrecting and actually causing the cure to be actually worse than the actual problem, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we see a lot of that with the NIMBY, not in my backyard, things like, it makes sense where they're coming from. Like, I don't want a gravel pit next to my house either, but for the greater good, having it closer means we're saving a lot of emissions. There's a lot less trucks on the road because the material doesn't have to go as far. We're not importing it from 100 miles away. So there are some sacrifices that have to be made. But yeah, in a lot of cases, the same people who are advocating for green technologies are also actively trying to stop the supply chains and the mining and things that need to happen to make those technologies a reality.
Yeah, and I think this really dovetails back into the main conversation we were talking about earlier. When we have technology solutions where the boots on the ground are actually leveraging those things and have visibility, they can operate more safely, more efficiently. They can make better decisions. So they're not doing rework and change orders and causing unnecessary motions in their work to get the same results. So what are some of the tools and processes that you're seeing now adopted out there on these remote sites that maybe weren't there 10 or 20 years ago?
It's interesting. They range from, I visited a small mine recently that only operates seasonally. And one of the issues with the mine that I identified early on was it's abandoned a lot of the time. There's nobody there, but they've got all the equipment and the processing equipment and everything. And it's kind of cool. I went out there a few months ago, and they have kind of these towers, security towers set up around that monitor. They keep the site safe. They're solar powered. They prevent people from damaging the site, and it's actually really effective, which is cool. And that's a fairly low tech solution, but on the more technical end, I've been thinking a lot about AI recently and contributed some trade articles and things about it. And we're seeing that it can do things like prevent accidents from happening on mine sites by doing everything from monitoring the equipment operators, their eyes, to actually see if they're fatigued, if they're tired, if they need a break, to monitoring the equipment itself, tire pressure, road conditions, slope stability, all these things. They can monitor 1,000 different points at once and say, hey, there's conditions over here that are dangerous for all these different reasons, and it can see things that people can't see. Because, even as an operator, hey, maybe I feel wired and I feel like I'm alert. Yeah, it goes, yeah, I know what alert looks like for you, and you're not looking that alert today. And, we're all kind of biased in the way we look at data, and AI can actually strip a lot of that away, which is cool. So that's like kind of really exciting, cutting edge, but I mean, we're seeing it across the board. There's a lot of great technology coming out, and it's actually being taken seriously. It's not just, hey, it'd be cool if we had electric vehicles. At the big construction aggregate show last week, I walked around and saw electric vehicles, and they actually work, and they operate, and they're efficient, and they don't have any emissions, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's amazing. You and I, we met at the ConExpo last week, or ConAg down in Las Vegas, and it was amazing to see the innovation. Companies like Trimble, Caterpillar, and many other vendors that are really, really, like you said, they're allowing systems and software to manage data and to bring alerts to people's attention, so that, again, even if you don't think you're fatigued, the machine actually thinks otherwise based on your behavior. And it's just amazing, incredible, long ways down the road from where we were even 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And a lot of stuff I didn't think was possible even 5 years ago is now possible, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So from this part of the conversation, is there anything as far as a takeaway that you hope that our listeners would come away with?
Yeah. So we kind of split into two different conversations there, kind of an overall spread into more of a technology. But on the market intelligence side, I think I would say, just start small, collect the data you have, understand your market, understand your competition, understand the big indicators and drivers that are driving your business. A lot of industries are doing that across some of the indicators, but not looking at all of them. So just start paying attention to that. And then, on the overall technology and how quickly it's evolving, I think it's important to realize that it's here to stay. AI is not going back in the box. It's not a fad. It's not something that's going to be gone next year. It's here to stay. It's going to have huge impacts. And so the sooner you start to look at ways to implement that sort of technology into your business and technology to actually start collecting the data, that's key. Because even if the solutions aren't there yet to analyze the data, if you start collecting the data now, it'll be valuable in the future because you can look back in time and say, okay, how did things run there? How are they running now? And you can actually start to benchmark. So just starting to collect data wherever you can is really key.
I think that's great advice. That's fantastic. Well, it's been a lot of fun. And one way we like to wrap up a couple things. So we did a little word game before we started the recording. You and I each picked a word that the other was supposed to use. What was the word you chose for me, and how did I do it using it?
Fax machine, and you did very well.
Okay.
And technology was seamless integration.
Nice. And then I gave you a little bit of a curveball. It was Leviathan, and I thought you did a great job using that one as well.
Yeah, thanks. It was I had to put it in there early so I didn't forget. So, but yeah, it was fun.
I thought you were going to talk about some of the mining trucks that were down there where the tires like almost as big as your house, right?
No, that would be the natural thing, but I had to make it more complicated.
Yeah, you gave me a curveball right back.
Yep.
Awesome. So one other thing that we like to do when we wrap up, we've been doing the last few episodes, I just wanted to rapid fire a few quick fun questions for you personally. Okay. So what is, Stuart, the very first car you ever owned?
1997 Chevy Nova. It was a four-door sedan.
Sweet.
And it was a cool car, but I had to learn how to fix things pretty quick.
Back when you could work on cars with your own wrenches, you don't have to take it into somebody with a bigger computer.
Oh yeah, I remember I could take the whole engine apart, which was amazing. Now I open the hood and I'm like, there's the battery.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. That's a fun car. All right. What about bucket list vacation?
I'd like to stow away on a cargo ship for a month.
Wow. Okay. I've never heard that one before. That's cool.
Yeah, it's the thing they do. A lot of these big cargo ships that go around the world, they actually have spare cabin space, and for a low fee, you can just stow away and kind of hang out and see how it operates. And they even do it on some of the icebreaker ships.
Wow. Never heard of that. I thought you meant like illegally, not with permission. I'm like, boy, you're really in it for the adventure.
Yeah, you're kind of a stowaway because you're not really helping, but you're there and you can kind of check it all out.
Got it. Then you tell you hits the sand at Gilligan's Island. You're like, wait, what are we doing here?
Right. Exactly. No, I'll just have some of that technology in my pocket so I can call for help.
That's it. All right. What about, what would you like to be remembered for?
Being a great dad and a good husband.
Oh, cool. Great answer. Love that. I don't think anybody would argue with that as a wish. So, all right. What about, is there a product that you just could not live without that's really changed your life in the recent years?
Yeah, I started taking a magnesium supplement before bed. And, usually supplements and stuff, I'm kind of, I don't think it really works. But I took this magnesium, it's called Mag Blue, and it's like a zinc magnesium. I used to take it in the morning, and one night I took it before bed because I forgot to take it earlier, and I had like the best sleep ever. And then I realized that taking it before bed helps me sleep way better. So that's definitely a product that's changed my life recently, which is really cool.
That's cool. That's great. All right. I got to write that one down. Mag Blue, is that what you said?
Mag Blue. I just bought 3 bottles today.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. So non-family friend that has been a regular part of your life the longest.
Got a friend Mike from high school that I still hang out with occasionally, and we've kind of gone through all the different phases of life together, and close at times, distant at other times, but he's always been there, which is really cool.
Well, that's awesome. That's great. Gotta love lifelong buddies.
Yeah, exactly.
What about, would you rather wear bell bottoms or have your hair styled in a mohawk?
Mohawk. I had one
Sweet.
for a couple of years.
Party on, Garth.
maybe 15, but I had one and I thought it was a lot of fun. So definitely Mohawk.
Perfect. But you have the fortune of having that option.
Well, I have less hair than I used to, but I could still probably pull it off.
Yeah, you're doing fine. All right. What about a hidden talent? Do you have one at all?
Really good at guessing prices. I could be on the prices right. I can look at something and guess, and usually I'm within 10%.
Wow. Handy buddy to have around when you're shopping, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, one of my hobbies, I'll fill up the Costco cart just kind of willy-nilly, and I'm not even good at math at all.
Yeah.
But I can look at it at the end, and I can tell my wife how much it's going to be, and I'm almost always spot on.
That's awesome. My wife and I play that same game, and I'm usually pretty close, but...
Yeah, it's a fun one. I mean, Costco, it's
yeah, it's a crapshoot. Awesome. All right, last one. If there were a zombie apocalypse today, who else would you want to have by your side?
Probably a common answer, but I'd say Chuck Norris.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. Cool. Why Chuck?
He's Chuck Norris.
Enough said. That's sweet. Love it. Well, Stuart, this has been so much fun. I've really appreciated having you on, and just appreciate your wisdom shared. And hopefully we have an opportunity to connect up again down the road and check back in and maybe even work together.
Sounds good. Yeah, it's exciting times. There's a lot going on in all these industries. It's exciting.
Love it. Well, thanks again, brother. We'll catch up again soon.
Thank you for joining us today on the Mobile Workforce Podcast, sponsored by About Time Technologies and WorkMax. If you liked the conversation we had today, or were able to learn anything new or helpful, please make sure to follow us on our WorkMax page on LinkedIn and on Instagram at WorkMax_. And subscribe to the show on iTunes or your preferred podcast platform so you will never miss another insightful episode. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and review and share the show with your friends and colleagues. Your support means the world to us and will allow us to continue providing impactful information with others looking to improve their results in their business and, in turn, their life.